Hey friends, hope you guys are well. Today we are talking about Assyria, and I'm also excited because this is a locked article, or semi-protected, which is good because that means it's a little bit harder to ruin it. So let me know if you're an intense Wikipedia editor and know a lot about it. I remember there's someone in the comments who mentioned that they were. Let me know if that's a good sign. Anywho, if you're new to the channel, I like Wikipedia and explore it, basically. So, continuing this deep dive into the Bronze Age, I've talked about Phoenicia recently, talked about the Hittites as well. So now I'm talking about Assyria. Okay? There we go. Assyria. Assyria was a major ancient Mesopotamian civilization that existed as a city-state from the 21st century BC all the way to the 14th century BC, and eventually expanded into an empire from the 14th all the way to the 7th century BC. What I find interesting is that in terms of the timeline, it bridges the gap from bronze to iron. So it's a Mesopotamian civilization that expands into an empire. Interesting. Let's take a look at the pic. Okay, so the Assyrian heartland in red, perhaps. This is what was mentioned as the city-state version of Assyria. And this orange, or if you're from New York, orange part is the empire, the extent of the empire. Cool. Also simple enough. But let's read more and get more details, because I'm sure this isn't simple. Also, city-state. So city-state is an independent, sovereign city which serves as the center of political, economic, and cultural life over its contiguous territory. So it was a city-state until about the 14th century BC, and then it becomes an empire all the way to the 7th century BC. And yeah, that's before Rome, before the height of Rome or anything like that. Also curious what exactly causes that end. Spanning from the early Bronze to the late Iron Age, modern historians typically divide ancient Assyrian history into the Early Assyrian, 26 to 2025, Old Assyrian, 2025, which is exactly 1,000 years ago. So 2025 to 1364, Middle Assyrian, 1363 to 912, and Neo-Assyrian, 911 to 609. And lastly, post-imperial, from 609 all the way to AD 2040. Interesting. So that's already in the time of Rome and so on. And they do this based on political events and gradual changes in language. Assur, the first Assyrian capital. Have a look at that, folks. You seeing that? Let's do a little zoom in. Whoa. It's quite the mound. So, Assur, the first Assyrian capital, was founded in 2600 BC, but there is no evidence that the city was independent until the collapse of the Third Dynasty of Ur, 21st century BC. So, Dynasty of Ur is a Sumerian dynasty, folks. So, this city-state perhaps was around during the time of like Sumer and Sumerian city-states in Mesopotamia. It's that old. But it continues all the way until perhaps 240. So it's a long time. Moving on, continuing to read. So it was independent until the collapse of the Third Dynasty of Ur in the 21st century BC, when a line of independent kings, starting with Puzur-Ashur I, began ruling the city. Centered in the Assyrian heartland, this red zone, in northern Mesopotamia, Assyrian power fluctuated over time. The city underwent several periods of foreign rule, or domination, before Assyria rose under Ashur-uballit I in the early 14th BC as the Middle Assyrian, in the early 14th century as the Middle Assyrian Empire. In the middle of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, if you're already getting confused between Neo, Middle, Early, I am too, don't worry. So in the Middle and Neo-Assyrian periods, Assyria was one of the two major Mesopotamian kingdoms alongside Babylonia. Very cool. So Babylonia is a different kingdom, doesn't have anything to do, it's independent of Assyria. And at times it became the dominant power in the ancient Near East. Syria was at its strongest in the Neo-Assyrian period, when the Assyrian army was the strongest power in the world, and the Assyrians ruled the largest empire then yet assembled in world history, spanning from parts of modern-day Iran in the east to Egypt in the west. Unbelievable. Okay. The Neo-Assyrian Empire fell in the 7th century BC, conquered by a coalition of Babylonians who had lived under Assyrian rule for about a century, and the Medes also. No citation. Though the core urban territory of Assyria was extensively devastated in the Medo-Babylonian conquest of the Assyrian Empire, in the succeeding Neo-Babylonian Empire invested few resources in rebuilding it. Ancient Assyrian culture traditions continue to survive for centuries throughout the post-imperial period. Assyrian experienced a recovery under the Seleucid, which is a Hellenistic king, and Parthian empires, although it declined again under the Sassanids, who I think were like the last kind of ancient Persians who were sacked by, I think, the Muslim conquerors. So the Sassanid Empire, which sacked numerous cities and semi-independent Assyrian territories in the region, including Assur itself. The remaining Assyrian people who have survived in northern Mesopotamia to modern times were gradually Christianized from the 1st century AD onward. Ancient Mesopotamian religion persisted at Assur until its final sack in the 3rd century AD, and at certain other holdouts for centuries thereafter. I think I'm going to pause here, because that was a lot of reading for me. But this is a really long and extensive Wikipedia. Look how much I'm freaking scrolling here. Jeez. I mean, yeah, also a lot of references. Over 200, almost 300 references. Yeah, so that's always good. Nice to see that people are citing and referencing and that it's kind of legit. I'm going to stop here. But there's definitely more, and there might be a round 2. I mean, look at this. Stuff out of like science fiction fantasy. So that's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I might even come back to this one to continue and get more into maybe religion, maybe population society, maybe government and military. But that's all for now.